And we speak now to Nceba Enge, who's the Western Cape Deputy Chairperson of the South African National Taxi Council, SANTACO. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So let's talk about the strike. How huge then do you expect it to be? Do you think that it will shut down the city? And also, we understand that about 9 million rand a day could be lost by the taxi industry if it goes ahead for these 2 days. Do you agree with these calculations?
Good morning. Good evening to you and the viewers at home. It's true that we'll be losing about 9 million rand per day as a taxi industry in the Western Cape, and that will be 18 million for the 2 days. But it is the amount that we are prepared to sacrifice for under the conditions in which we are working as a taxi industry in this province. Due to impoundment, due to bylaws that have been implemented without our consultation, due to termination of the Blue Dot.
Now, when Blue Dot was implemented, were you against it? Because we understand that the provincial government's announcement was that the Blue Dot taxi pilot program was to ensure that it formalizes the sector, that it improves service quality. This 250 million rand project, were you in support of it, and what are the talks with government now?
Fully, ma'am. We were in support of that because I think over the 15 years now, the government has been speaking about transformation in the tea industry, and transformation will come through support from the government. And the initiative of this nature was really appreciated by us. When the Blue Dot program was introduced, it was clear that it will be expanded if it became effective. And the results are positive. 98% results are positive that the program was indeed very good, because it looked at the behavior of the drivers, at the safety of commuters, whereby they'll report an incident immediately. And this is a model of some kind that we appreciate in the industry, and that can be used in subsidizing the industry. And one other thing that I want to mention is that we are faring in Western Cape alone 1.5 million commuters per day, and we got nothing in terms of the subsidy. Garden Route is getting 1.3 billion out of 240 commuters that they transport per day. My city is getting about 1 billion per annum out of 35,000 commuters that they transport per day. So we feel that it is really unfair. It is about time that we are recognized as businessmen as well.
So just looking at, and you can tell if the figures are wrong, because we're told about 800 taxis took part in the scheme, and what they received in terms of Blue Dot status was vehicle branding, taxi compliance, and driver training. If this is the case, what does the Western Cape member of the Executive Council have to say? And I'm talking here about Mr. Daleen Mitchell, because I believe you met with him, and he said as much as he believes that the project was working, unfortunately they cannot continue beyond the pilot phase. What reasons were given?
The only reason, it's only one reason that has been given, is lack of funds. That is the only reason. And we must commend our MEC for transport in this province. He's been trying very hard to get the project continue, but unfortunately he couldn't get funding. We know for sure that there are funds that are there, and unfortunately we are not taken care of, because we have consulted the Premier Instead of the Premier meeting with us, he just diverted the letter that we wrote to him, to the Minister, Dailin Michel. We have tried to consult the DA itself, Mr. Steenhuisen, and Mrs. Zille, but that came to nothing because there was no positive response. Zille did not respond to us at all, but John Steenhuisen diverted the letter back to the Minister.
Now, we understand that the province believes that given the nature, the scale of the project, the funds that are needed, that they believe that national government should take over. Is this something that would work for you, do you think? Is it feasible from the way the scheme is structured? And what about, you mentioned several people, what about the provincial treasury? Have you reached out to them? What are they saying?
The provincial?
Treasury.
The provincial treasury, we wrote a letter to them, but that came to nothing as well. Hence, I said at the beginning that we explored all the avenues,
okay,
and that came to nothing. Hence, we therefore took a decision to embark in this kind of action. One other thing that I want to explain is that this project was initiated by the government of the Western Cape. They must not now shift the blame to the national government. They must not shift the blame. They need to go all the way out to see if they can get funding for the project. And from our view, it seems as if the government of the Western Cape is divided themselves about the project. There are people who are for the project to continue. There are people who are not for the project to continue. And that is particularly from the DA itself.
So should there be no resolution after you complete your 2-day strike, what happens next?
I can't hear you, John.
What happens next if there is no call to come together to the table to renegotiate? What happens next after the strike?
We are always hoping that we will get a call from the government to go to the drawing board and discuss this matter. We are even expecting them to phone us tomorrow morning. But if they fail to do so, we will embark in other actions in future that will have still to sit down and discuss around it and see what other steps we are going to take.
All right,
but
thank you
from now onwards, we are not going to sit back, fold our arms, and be quiet.
Okay, we thank you for your time. Much appreciated, Mr. Nceba Enge, who is the Western Cape Deputy Chairperson of the South African National Taxi Council. So this is expected to impact 75% of public transport and all public transport services in the Western Cape.